Hi everyone and welcome back to a new episode of BWD. In this series we're learning how to create an app to scrape song lyrics from the internet. For example, Yesterday by Beatles. But now let's go to the board and see what we're gonna do today. At the end of the previous episode, we have tried to run the MyLyrics app exactly like we've just done. However, that didn't work and we got an error message saying command not found. That's exactly what we're gonna figure out today, and we're gonna do it in a two-step solution. The first goal will be to run the code as a package, and once this is done, we will see how to build and create a distribution for our app. This way, we finally gonna be able to install the distribution and run at the command line. If you are new to this channel or you're back watching this video, do not forget you can find timestamps in the video description below. And all the code you're gonna see today is available on GitHub. Again, link in the description below. And now, without further ado, let's get started. By the end of the previous episode, you should have your project that looks like this. First, at the root level, you should have the env directory, where all the Python dependencies are installed. Then, there's gonna be our HTML toy example that we use to learn the basic of HTML. Next, the requirements file, where all the Python dependencies are listed to make the project reproducible. And finally, there is the source directory, where all the Python code is found. The first file is the HTML parser, which we use to crunch the HTML toy example. Then there is the MyLyrics folder, and within it the AZLyrics module, which contains the class we coded to scrape the song lyrics. So now, let's move to the source directory and remove the parser script, as we don't need it anymore. And let's call the MyLyrics app at the command line. And as you can see, this doesn't work. We got the error message we expected, command not found. On the other hand, if you have followed along, you should be able to run the client code in the AZLyric module. As you can see, this worked, and we got the lyrics for We Will Rock You by Queen. Great! However, we must not forget that right now there is another issue that we gotta fix as well, which is, if we wanna change song or artist, for example, let's try with Yesterday by Beatles, if we pass these two inputs at the command line, this does not work. In fact, we keep getting We Will Rock You by Queen. So right now, every time we wanna change song or artist, we gotta open the file and change it manually. But this is not what we wanna, right? Great! So let's start by trying to run MyLyrics as a package. To do so, what we gotta do is to call the Python interpreter with the -m option, which stands for module, followed by the name of the package, in our case, MyLyrics. Then let's provide the artist and the song title, and let's see what happens. Of course, we didn't do anything, so we expect this to not work, right? Okay, we got an error, but this time is a little bit different. In fact, it's not just saying module not found, right? It seems like the problem is a missing file called _main_, which is missing, and that's preventing Python from running MyLyrics as a package. So it seems like to get this working, there must be a main file within the MyLyrics directory. So let's just try to create it as an empty file and see what happens if we run the command again. Okay, so this time we didn't get any output or error. So what's going on exactly here? When we run the Python code as a package, under the hood, Python will look first for the main file. You can think about it as the entry point of your application, and whenever this is not found, Python will complain and say, "I'm sorry, but I don't know where to start, there is no entry point for your app." Okay, so now a question that you might ask is, if what you have just described is true, why is our app still not working? After all, we have created the main file, right? That's a good question, and the answer is that, yes, it's true that the main file exists, but it's an empty one. So even if Python finds it, it's not gonna do anything, because there is no instruction in there. Alright, let's find out if this is true or not. Let's just open it and put a print statement. This way, when we run the command, I would expect to see the output of this print statement displayed on the screen. Okay, great, we got exactly the message we wrote in the print statement. Now that we have proved this, the next step is to write the client code in the main file. In this way, it's gonna be executed. But to get this working, we must not forget that we have to be able to pass the inputs at the command line. To get this done, we're gonna use the argparse library. This is a built-in. That's why we can simply import it without installing it. So, it's out of the scope of this video to go into details of how argparse works. That's why I'm just gonna describe briefly what we need to get the job done. First, let's create an instance of the argument parser class. Think about it as a service that allows us to collect arguments from the command line. Let's define the arguments we need to run the MyLyrics app. But before that, let's provide a short description that will be displayed at the command line. To add an argument, all we gotta do is to call the addArgument method and provide a set of information. So, let's start with the artist name. First, we have to provide the short and the long name. So, in this case, -a and --artist. Then, a short description to describe what is expected. And finally, as this argument is always needed to run the app, we're gonna specify required equal to true. Alright, we have just defined our very first argument. The next part is to parse the argument when the client code is running. To do so, we're gonna call the parse_args method over the instance of the service we are using, and then store the output in the args variable, where we're gonna find all the parsed arguments. Finally, let's get the artist argument using the dot notation, and let's print it to see if this works or not. Back to the command line, let's run MyLyrics as a package, and then let's just provide the artist name. Okay, great, it works. We got exactly the name of the artist we passed at the command line. Now, let's go back to the main file and add the next argument, the song title. Exactly like for the artist, this is going to be a required argument. So let's simply copy the code and update it. Now, let's run it to see if this works. And great, we got also the title of the song. Okay, now that we got this part working, all we gotta do next is to write the client code to scrape the song. Back to the main file, let's import the lyric class and create an instance of it. However, this time, we won't hardcode the artist name and the song title. Instead, we're gonna pass the command line arguments directly to the lyric class when we create the instance. Then, let's call the scrape method, and finally, let's print the lyrics. Alright, before running it, let's not forget to drop the client code that we wrote in the lyric module. And finally, let's run the code as a package, passing the two inputs. And here we go, it worked. Alright, before moving ahead, let me show you another goodies of the argparse library. Let's suppose that this is the first time for you using the MyLyrics library, and you have no clue about what to do. In this scenario, what you can do is to call the lyrics package with the -h option or help option, which will print out a short summary. In the first line, it will describe how to use it. Right down below, there is the short description we typed in the main file, and at the bottom, there is a full description for each argument. So, before we consider this part of the solution completed, there is one thing left to do. We have to wrap the client code into a function called main. I won't go into details of why this is needed, but let's just say that without it, the second part of the solution won't work. Finally, let's define this if statement. So if you don't know what this actually does, don't worry, because it's very simple. Every time you run Python code from a module, the name variable is initialized. So let's just say that if the module you're running is the entry point of your program, then the name variable is gonna be equal to main, and this is exactly our case. On the other hand, if the module is not the entry point of your program, then the name variable is gonna have the name of the module itself. Alright, I hope this is clear, but if not, let me know in the comment section below. So with this done, we are halfway from the final solution. In fact, if we try to run this as a command line app, we still get the same error, command not found. However, we will see how to fix this in the next episode. So do not forget to subscribe to not miss it out, and with that said, see you in the next one. Ciao!